You all came.
Testing, testing. Hello? Can you hear me? If you can hear my voice, clap once. You can hear my voice?
Huh? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes, we're gonna really have to talk loud. Yeah, he needs 7 more minutes,
Okay.
so we just need to just hold off. But
Yeah,
like,
I'll try to get people to come to the front.
yeah, see if you can talk louder. Your voice is soft, but it's so much going on
Uh
back
huh.
there. But I think once everything gets quiet,
So I just need to use my
your
Dr.
kid
Crutcher voice and Dr.
and
and Demario voice.
your Dr. Crutcher, your Mario, and your Hawthorne voice, because I
Gotcha.
know you got one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the voice you need to use,
Okay.
because I know you be
All right.
fussing. Don't be afraid.
I got you. I got
Yeah.
you. All right.
Those of you in the back, can you please come to the front? We're trying to fill up these seats up front. If you have a seat in the back, please come move up front. We'll get started in a little bit, about 5 minutes.
raise your hand. I'll repeat. If you're glad to be here tonight, raise your hand. We're here tonight to celebrate. We're going to sing tonight the Hallelujah song. Those of you who are familiar with, join in. Hallelujah, Yahweh God the Hallelujah, 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 Yahweh God the Hallelujah. Make us so pogi, may mona pogi, Hallelujah. Make us so pogi, may mona gogi, Hallelujah. Akaso pogi, may mona pogi, Hallelujah. Akaso pogi, may mona bogi, Hallelujah. Everybody, Hallelujah. Yahweh God the Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yahweh God the Hallelujah. Amen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is DJ Mercer, and I am a member of the Greenwood community, and I would like to thank Mr. Bailey for his song. It is a song of thankfulness, so I want to have the opportunity to give you all a time to thank Mr. Bailey for singing that beautiful song and leading us as we start this rally for justice for Black Creeks. It's very important to know why we are on Greenwood right now, because Greenwood would not have been able to be a part of it and being a part of Greenwood if it wasn't for Black Creeks. Black Creeks are co-founders of Greenwood, and Justice for Greenwood requires justice for Black Creeks. So when I say justice for, you say Black Creeks. Justice for? Black Creeks. Justice for? Black Creeks. Justice for? Black Creeks. So it is my honor to introduce and also acknowledge several people who are in attendance for today, including Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons, his co-counsel Eric Giles, David A. Riggs, representing their clients, Rhonda Grayson, as well as Jeff Kennedy, and the Justice for Black Creeks Coalition. I would like to bring up Jeff Kennedy and Rhonda Grayson to the podium now. Justice for? Black Creeks. Justice for? Black Creeks. Justice for? Black Creeks. Who are we?
Black Creeks.
Who are we?
Black Creeks.
Who are we?
Black Creeks.
Who are we?
Black Creeks.
Muskogee Creek. Muskogee Creek, Black Creeks, Muskogee Creek, Black Creek, Muskogee Creek, Black Creek. Who are we?
Black Creeks.
Who are we?
Black Creeks.
Who are we?
Black Creeks.
It's all right. There's a lot of us today that don't really know who we are. This journey's been long, and it has really been tiresome. But as the songwriter says, 99 and a half won't do.
Right.
Trying to make 100. With that said, I'm just going to say, my name is Jeff Kennedy. I am a descendant of freedmen. Ben Grayson, number 5329. My grandfather was Chinny Chotke. He was documented as a half-breed, half Indian, half colored. But it also says that he married a black woman. So what does that mean to me? Anyway, I just wanted to also acknowledge Demario Solomon Simmons, his co-counsel, Eric Giles, David A. Riggs, and of course the Justice for Black Creeks. We really appreciate you all giving us this opportunity to just come and bring our fight and join our fight, because we know we can't do it by ourselves. It takes each and every one of you. Again, who are we? Who are we? I'm just checking. I'll be checking again. Anyway, just to give you a bit about my family, we'll just go through that. Of course, in the Civil War, my great-grand-uncle, Quash McClish, he also fought in the Second Cousin Colored, and he was also a private in the 1st Indian Home Guard. I'm just basically saying that to say that whenever there's a call to service, I know at least my family is there. Of course, both fought correctly in the Battle of Cabin Creek in '63, and also the Battle of Honey Springs. Those are the campaigns that was fought in Indian Territory, in case you all didn't know. My family served in the House of Kings and the House of Warriors. We're also listed as the Graysons of the 1967 Creek Law Book. It's really been amazing just waking up and finding out that being in touch with my Africanized Center, I used to think, oh, this is amazing, but to look at the paper and say, Freedmen, who are these people? Where do they come from? To find out that they're talking about me. But for the most part, my name, or they've been calling me all these other names. And it didn't really work for me because nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to talk about their past to their kids, so we couldn't pass down those traditions. Virtually, we really don't know who we are. But with that said, moving back, we were also listed on the 1898 census. We did get the 160 acres. So if you are a freedman, your ancestor did receive that 160 acres. I just want to, somebody hear me there? Yes, most people believed in that 40 acres in a view. We got the 160. So if you had 10 members in your family, each one of those family members got 160 acres. So if you had 10 people in your family, that's 1,600 acres. What you gonna do with that? There you go. Anyway, make a long story short, 1938, moving forward, we're in a tribe, we've got our land. The 5 civilized tribes wrote a letter to the solicitors. And they asked, how do we eliminate the freedmen? So again, they're talking about us. We're some of the most documented people. We can go back about 5 generations, whereas everybody else can't. We're the only ones in the nation that's got an 1890 census. They said the 1890 census for the United States had burned down. We're documented. So if anybody want to challenge that, let them challenge those documents from 150 years ago. You can prove this. After the solicitors comes 1979. The Creeks had an illegal vote, voted out my family, totally disenfranchised my family, totally disenfranchised your family. Can I hear that again?
That's right, Jeff. That's right.
My family, our family. And so here we are today on the precipice of a groundbreaking decision tomorrow. And we hope that you all there as we finish this journey with who we are. Who are we? Who are we? Standing. Rhonda Grayson.
Wow, man, that's a hard act to certainly follow. All right, Jeff Kennedy. I am Rhonda Grayson, one of the founding members of the Muskogee Creek Indian Freedmen Band and chairwoman of this great organization. We are certainly delighted to be here tonight on this momentous occasion. And so we are praying and hoping that Judge Miser will make the right decision, the only decision that she can make, which would be fair and just, is to honor the Treaty of 1866. Treaties are the supreme law of the land, and so the law is on our side. So we are here seeking justice for Black Creeks, the people known as Creek Freedmen. 43 years ago, the Muskogee Creek Nation exiled the Black Creeks from the nation in violation of the Creek Treaty of 1866. And as I stated, this Creek Treaty has not been abrogated. It is still good and valid law. We need each and every one of you to stand with us and to demand that the Creek Nation honor the Treaty of 1866. It is still good law. And so that is what we are here for. This is the occasion that we're here for. And before I sit down, I just want to stand and thank Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons. He has been on this journey with us for a very, very long time. I've known him ever since he was a young lad. He's been on this journey with us, and I kept that phone number. I kept it close because I knew we would need it for such a time as this. And thank God for clients like me, because clients like Jeff and Sharon that harass him and get on his nerves, but then there's this good client, Rhonda Grayson. Isn't that right, Demario? That's right. But anyway, this is a great occasion. We're glad to be here. We're so thankful for Justice for Greenwood and the Terrence Kutcher Foundation, who has just gotten behind us and just has supported us along the journey, and so many others who have supported us on this journey. And so we're just excited. We greatly anticipate the decision on tomorrow. There's only one decision that she should make, and that is to affirm the citizenship rights of the Black Creek, the people known as Creek Freedmen, and bring us home. Redeem our ancestors and bring us home. And my goal is that they redeem us, make a public apology, and call every one of their names. Call them by names. That's it.
Justice for? Black Creek. Justice for? Black Creek. Justice for? Black Creek. So now I would like to bring a couple people up to the podium. Special guest from Dr. Crusher. The first one I'd like to bring up is Michael Vaughn. So Michael, come up. You'll have 2 minutes to tell the people. Let's give it up for him.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Vaughn. I want to thank you all for your role in this fight. Thank you, Demario, for your role in this fight. I am here on behalf of my family, who can't be with us right now. I just want to say that my great-grandmother, Maddie Roberts Myers, was an old woman when I was born, so she might have been too old to join us in this fight, but she wasn't too old to share our family heritage and her story as a 100-year-old Black Creek woman. So I stand here today as a representative of my family, demanding justice for all of us, for my family, and for all descendants of Black Native Americans. Thank you.
I'd like to bring back up the amazing client, Rhonda Grayson, to talk about her family.
So listen, guys, I got really excited and I was mesmerized by Jeff Kennedy's speech. And so I forgot what my assignment and task was for tonight. And I sat down, so I'm sorry. I apologize. So, my ancestor, we talk about the Creek Freedmen, Black Creeks, the people known as Creek Freedmen. My ancestor, Tony Hawkins, was born around 1790 in the Old Creek country. Oftentimes we hear these stories about the Trail of Tears and how Native Americans came across these Trail of Tears and they suffered from pneumonia, exposure, disease, and many of them did not make it. But what the story often fails to tell is the story of the Black Creeks, the people known as freedmen. We are descendants of those people. The stories never talk about our ancestors who traveled the rigors of travel, the unknown, uprooting of their homes. And there are some of their people who didn't make those, that stayed over in the old country. So my ancestor, Tony Hawkins, born around 1790 in the Old Creek country. These people traveled the Trail of Tears just like any other person who was said to be a Creek, a native person. They traveled from their eastern homeland, southeast eastern homelands, Alabama and Georgia, via the Trail of Tears in the 1830s, the removal to Indian Territory. We hear the stories about the Monmouth riverboat when it sunk. All of those hundreds of lives that were lost. We hear those stories, but we never hear the stories about Jim Boy, who was a war chief, who was said to be of African descent. He had a black wife, and he had a native wife, and it was said that he had 9 children, and that there were 9 children aboard, and he lost 4 children on board the Monmouth, west of the Mississippi to Indian Territory. There were African black people on that trail of tears. And so we don't talk about that. Our people suffered loss just like the so-called real Indians. We were there. We were there. And so I just wanted to talk about that, let you know that our people served in the Indian Home Guard. My relatives served. They served in the Civil War. We don't hear those stories. We don't hear the stories where our ancestors served in the House of Kings and the House of Warriors. That is similar to what we know today as our House Representatives and the Senate. We don't hear those stories where they served as senators, judges, lawyers, and there was even one such individual by the name of Legacy Perryman, who was the principal chief. There's an extra census bulletin that talks about the Negro chief. It says he's virtually a Negro. He comes from a famous Creek family, Legacy Perryman. Sharon Lindsay Scott, my partner, is not here because she's sick. She is a descendant, a relative of the chief of the nation, Creek Nation, and she can't even enroll as a citizen of the nation. Our people served, as I stated, in the House of Kings and in the House of Warriors. We're going over to the courthouse tomorrow to get a decision whether we can be back in the nation, and our people served in that court. Isn't that amazing? It's really sad, and it's embarrassing. And it's really embarrassing. The whole state of Oklahoma should be outraged that this is happening in the 21st century. So I just wanted to come up and talk a little bit about my family. And so, as I stated, it's a travesty for us to serve in high positions. And oftentimes people ask me, why, Rhonda? Why do you fight this fight? I said, because I have a responsibility. I don't have a choice. If my ancestors could travel across the world and make it to Indian Territory so that I could stand and work in corporate America, so that Jeff Kennedy graduated with distinction from OU as an architect, for him to be able to stand, for attorney Demario Solomon Simmons to graduate from the University of Oklahoma, and he's an attorney, fighting for the rights of hundreds of thousands of Black Creeks. We have a responsibility to stand. We should stand and we should fight. That's why we fight. And we will continue to fight. And if the decision tomorrow is to continue to exile us from the Creek Nation, we will continue to fight. Are we tired? Yes, we're tired. But we are going to continue to fight until victory is won. You know, our ancestors, they fought for us, and we have to fight for them. And we are going to continue to fight. Yes, we could be doing something else. We could be traveling across the world, but yet and still, we fight because we have a responsibility to fight. And so I think I've talked enough here. So I'm going to call our next guest to speak up. The next guest, let's see here. Christy, have you spoke? You haven't spoke, have you? Christy, come up and speak.
Thank you. I probably need a step stool, y'all. I took my heels off earlier. I would like for Demario to please stand. Please stand up. Everyone, please just give him some love. Y'all can do better than that. Give him some love. We have to support Demario. If he calls, answer. If he asks you to be here, be there. We got to support him, okay? My name is Christy Williams. I am a Creek Freedman descendant. I am the great-great-granddaughter of Supreme Court Justice Jesse Franklin, who came on the Trail of Tears as a slave to the Creek Nation, and he was appointed to the Creek Nation Supreme Court in 1874. And he also did serve as a representative in the House of Kings. I spoke today at the press conference, and I know people have probably watched the news today, but I just want to keep it on your minds that the Creek Nation is at the White House. They will be there all this week. They're on TV, going live, you can watch it. They have a seat at the table. They have a seat at the table, y'all. And that's not a good thing, but it's okay. But they have a seat at the table. And this is the same tribe who stood with the Confederacy to protect their sovereign rights to have black people as slaves. My people, our people, us. Think about that. And they are at the White House right now. When we talk about the Article 2 of the 1866 treaty, Article 2, they are violators of that treaty. They are violators of that treaty, but yet they have a seat at the table at the White House right now with our president, Joe Biden. The U.S. government co-signed that treaty. The Creek Nation signed it, the U.S. government co-signed it. They could stop this right now. Right now, they could stop it. But they don't. They send mass support for voter rights in Georgia, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. But what about the black people right here in Indian Territory, now called Oklahoma? And see, there's a lot of conversations right now, right, around reparations. But right here in Oklahoma, we have a more broader conversation about reparations. We're fighting reparations nationally. We're fighting reparations for the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre that DeMario's also been fighting for. We have 3 survivors left of that, right? We're fighting, trying to get bodies out of the mass graves that they keep reburying, women and children that they're not telling you about. And then we have to fight the tribes. We have to fight like no other black people in this country. While we still have the same fight, we also have different fights right here. Right here. And you all have to know that. So not only do we have to push the Creek Nation to do right, we got to push our president, Joe Biden, who stood in this other room during the centennial to say, stop this, make them do right. Because they can say, you know what, we're not going to help you all if you are going to continue to violate your freedmen. And that term, it's a badge of slavery. It is a badge of slavery they are forcing us to wear. That they are forcing us to wear. So I just really want y'all to think about that. Just think about that. And as Eli Grayson, who's been on the battlefield for a long time, fighting for Creek freedmen rights, he has said the only thing that they have not done, the only thing that they have done in Article 2 of the 1866 treaty is they haven't put physical shackles on us. That's the only thing. But you have you have a right to the equal share of the land that's in that treaty. I have a right to that. You have a right to that. You have a right to the share of funds. I have a right to the share of funds, health care, housing, education, and we are denied that because they kicked us out of the tribes in 1979. In 1979. So if you're able, I haven't been able, I've been denied, but if you apply for your Creek citizenship, and if you get it, don't apply this wanting a card tag. It's a lot more that goes into this. And I don't care what tribe it is. You have rights, And we have to build an economy within an economy because that's what we did before. We built Greenwood. We built Black Wall Street. We existed here way in 1832 before, I think 1829. We existed here. We were building. We were building. And so I just want to just keep that on your minds. But I also want to leave you with this. Joe Biden, when he was here, President Joe Biden, he said, we can't just choose to learn what we want to know and not what we should know. We should know the good, the bad thing. That's what great nations do. So, Creek Nation, you can't cherry pick what parts of this treaty that you want to go by. I'm going to say that again. The Cherokee Nation, I don't know which camera I need to look at, but you do not get the right to cherry pick what you want out of this 1866 treaty. You go by all of it. All of it. This should not be a hard decision tomorrow. It should not be a hard decision for President Biden to say enough is enough, because he can do that with the swing of a pen. They have the authority to say, you need to go by this. Joe Biden has the responsibility to make sure that he protects the rights of freedmen. Period. 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 And I just want to also leave with one more thing. My great-great-grandfather, Jesse Franklin, there is a documented interview that he had with the U.S. government. And one of the things, two things that struck me in that interview. One is that he actually put people to death. I was like, what? But the other thing is when they asked him, they asked him, are you black? He said, I'm Creek. Thank you.
And last but not least, Senator Jabbar Shumate. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank everybody for coming out. And I just want to say what was in my ear after hearing my dear sister Christy say a few words is that I really do feel change is in the air. And we know Brother Baldwin said that, nothing really can be changed until it's faced. And I want you all to give Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons a round of applause for making sure that this issue is faced. We can do better than that. We can do better than that. I can speak to my classmates' efforts because when I really was a senator and a state representative, we were working on this issue. And when I look at Demario and Eli and myself and several others, we started this process. We all had hair. Now we don't have no hair. So it's time. We've been at this a long time, and it's really time to see the right thing done. And I'm not going to give you a historical conversation. It's very plain. My grandmother used to say, even Ray Charles can see that. It's very plain. There's not a whole lot of deliberation or discussion about what that's about. I really want to say thank you to these families, Grayson family, all of the families that have been involved. I'm a descendant of the Sales family, of Harry and Jane Sales of Wagner County. Actually, Freedman, whose allotment constituted the original plot of land for Broken Arrow. You can go to the Broken Arrow Historical Society and see that. I haven't seen it because I don't want to see an award or a plaque in a historical society. I want my heritage. And so it's real personal for me, this piece. I don't often speak about it because my grandmother raised us eating safsky and speaking the language and singing the songs, culturally united as a black woman and a Creek woman. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge any descendant of Harry and Jane Sales who are here far beyond me, have fought this battle. If you will stand, if you're in the room, please stand. Some are, thank you, my cousin Signe and others, the Ford family and Sales family. I just want to acknowledge them because I really stand on their shoulders. I'm speaking as a member of that family, but I think even more personally, I know as a former elected official in this state, it is very difficult to have two sets of rules. And many times we fought for a long time to allow these tribes to have a different set of rules. And we're not begging for anything. I was told as a child to pray not to just do things right, but do the right thing. So tomorrow, walk into that courtroom with these folks and demand that they do the right thing.
Next, I would like to bring up Paige Clark on behalf of Terrence Crutcher Foundation.
Okay, can I get the microphone right? First question. All right, good evening. Thank you so much to everyone who's already spoken. It's an honor to be up here with you. My name is Paige Clark. I am a Muskogee Creek Nation citizen, and I am here with you all tonight to insist that non-Black Creeks stand in solidarity with Black Creeks and this court case. There is no room for anti-Black racism in the Muskogee Nation. Historically, culturally, presently, it is blatantly obvious that Black Creeks belong in this tribe. Not only is it immoral to deny citizenship, but it is illegal according to our own treaty. I know so many non-Black Creeks who quietly support this court case, who quietly stand with us and what we're talking about. But I am here tonight to proclaim loudly that non-Black Creeks shout this from the rooftops. So thank you to all the families. Thank you to everyone who's fighting. It's really, really appreciated, and you're not alone. Thanks.
Justice for? Justice for? Justice for? It is my honor to introduce and bring up a person who not only helped me get integrated into Tulsa, but showed me what it means to be a Black man, not only in Tulsa or Oklahoma, but also in America. He is a proud North Tulsan. He is a proud Black Creek, and he is the best attorney that I know personally. So I would like to bring up attorney Demario Solomon Simmons and give it up for him as he brings it up.
Man, this is awesome. I want to give y'all my whole case tomorrow, but I won't do that. You know, it's funny because growing up, and my father's here. Dad, stand up. That's my father. he flew up here from St. Petersburg, and he said, man, you didn't tell me how cold it was. He used to come pick me up for visitation, and he would talk to me all the time about we had a black chief, Creek chief, and we had all this land, and we came from Trail of Tears, and I'd be thinking, man, you don't have to lie to kick it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to tell me all that, man. We can just hang out. And when I found out and really realized that that was accurate, it just blew me away. When I found out that from my father, who was a Creek citizen, my grandmother, Johnny Mae Simmons, was a Creek citizen. Her father, John W. Simmons, Creek Road, 421, born in 1900, Creek citizen. His father, Jake Simmons Sr., and mother, Rose Simmons. Her father and mother and father and mother, going all the way back to the late 1700s. We have to understand something, that when we talk about this badge of slavery, Creek freedmen, that they forced upon us, frozen us in time. Some of our people were enslaved by the Creek Nation. That's true. But there were also black people here when Columbus got here that were part of the Creek Nation. That's true. And we have to understand that regardless of how we got here, enslaved or free, our people deserve the right to be who we are. The treaty is clear, and I know we keep pointing to it, we had it up here. But it says specifically that among the Creeks, if you know it, say it with me, are many persons of what? African descent, who shall have and enjoy full citizenship and the rights and benefits thereof. That's the treaty language. That's what's in front of the judge tomorrow. That is what she has to decide. Is the Muskogee Creek Nation a nation of laws or of men and women? Is the Muskogee Creek Nation, as the famous quote goes, great nations like great men keep their word? They had their word in 1866, June 14th. And that document was negotiated and signed by 5 individuals. One of those individuals was my 4-time great-grandfather, Cal Minko. He signed that treaty. You can look it up, but they erased him from the Creek Nation's history. You don't see anything about it. She talked about Legacy Perryman. That's another blood relative of mine. Mose Perryman, the founder of Tulsa, basically, direct descendant from him. Yet they're going to tell us we're no longer allowed to be in the nation. It's a travesty. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I want to acknowledge a few people before I continue. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the Muskogee Creek Indian Freedmen Band, Rhonda and Jeff and Sharon, who's now here. Give it up for them again. This has been some hard work, expensive work, time-consuming work. They're not professional advocates and lawyers like me. They have regular jobs, corporate jobs, and they do this on their free time. They've been flying all over this nation, talking to anybody that would learn about us, having conferences and educational opportunities for anyone that would listen to get to this point. I want to thank the staff. If you're here, you see them in a purple shirt. Because we understand that Black Creeks were the co-founders of Greenwood and its Black Wall Street. If there were no Black Creeks, there would not have been a Greenwood. And to have justice for Greenwood, you must have justice for who? Black Creeks, no doubt. I want to thank our coalition partner, our partner on everything, the Terrence Crutcher Foundation. And particularly, I see my sister back there. She don't want to be up front tonight, but Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. Give it up for Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. Yeah, give it up for Dr. Tiffany Crutcher. Has taken this city by storm, this state, because of the tragedy that happened to her twin brother that was shot in cold blood by Betty Jo Shelby in the city of Tulsa. She's taken that pain into purpose and pouring it all out for us to continue to get our rights, because Terrence's rights were violated. I want to acknowledge my legal associate, Kimberly Hepton-Kemper. She's standing back there. Raise your hand, Kim. She's shy as can be. And my law firm, Solomon Simmons Law. We have several people working on this case. They couldn't be here tonight. My co-counsel, David Riggs of Riggs Abney, and Eric Giles, they couldn't be here yet. They will be here, be in court with me tomorrow. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my friend and my original Creek client, Ron Graham. Ron, please stand. I was in law school, and I met Marilyn Vann, who's another great advocate of this issue, and I met Ron Graham, and they were working on this case by themselves, pro se. Ron was fighting the Creek Nation on a typewriter, and they asked me would I help, and I didn't know nothing. I said, yes, I'd love to help, and I got involved in the case, and I said, man, this is bigger than me. I can't do this. I'm just out of law school. And Ron, the co-plaintiff, Fred Johnson. Mr. Johnson died several years ago. He was a lovely man. And I remember he saying that his grandfather, who was a Creek, told him one day you're going to have to fight to prove that I'm your relative. And we had a case in 2005, 11-day trial, the Creek Nation. They treated us like trash, didn't they, Ron? Ron had applied like 8 times up until that point, and it got denied with the same letter that said, you're nothing but an ex-slave. You have no Indian blood, denied. We proved over 11 days how they treated black Creeks with humiliation, degradation, called us niggas, slaves. We proved it in court. And their Supreme Court, 2 years later, overturned our victory. They thought we were going to be finished. Here we are 15 years later, going in with this energy. It's a different world. You know, when George Floyd happened, that knee, everybody saw that knee on George Floyd's neck, but it was the knee that's been on the neck of black people for 400 years, and goddamn it, we ain't taking it no more. My grandmother, Johnny Mae Simmons, who passed away, be 3 years next month, was one of the plaintiffs in this case. She was 87 when she passed. She was heartbroken to have her heritage stolen, stripped and stolen from her, her history, her culture. She spoke Creek. She lived on the Creek allotment. She said, I don't understand how they can just do this. How can they just one day say, I'm not who I am? So when they asked us what this is about, yeah, we want our health care benefits because we're entitled. Yeah, we want our educational benefits because we're entitled. Yeah, we want our housing benefits because we're entitled. Yeah, we want every other benefit that any other Creek because we're entitled. But more importantly, more invaluable to any of that is we want to affirm who we are and who our ancestors were and not allow you to take their hard work over hundreds of years, centuries, erase it like we don't matter. So tomorrow, we're going to present the best case the Creek Nation has ever seen. But at the end of the day, we're going to show that treaty. We're going to lay it out on the PowerPoint, and we're going to read it. And we're going to ask the Creek Nation. Now, aren't you the same nation in 2020 with the McGirt decision? You said that the Treaty of 1866 is valid? Are you the same nation? Are you the same nation? Because you went to court on The Treaty of 1866, right, Eli? On Article 3. I'm here in court on the Treaty of 1866, Article 2, baby. So either you're going to be a hypocrite or you're going to follow the law. It's that clear. What you say, Christy? Yeah. I fully expect, Jabbar talked about his grandmother. My grandma would say, claim it. I'm claiming victory. I'm claiming victory tomorrow. I don't claim victory because I'm not the judge. I don't make the decision, but I believe that our judge is a fair judge. I believe that she believes in the rule of law. And if she believes in the rule of law and reads the law as plainly written, there's no other decision. It's the same thing that the Cherokee tried to do, the Seminole tried to do. This treaty is very, very, very clear. I want to leave you with this. In 1860s, the Creek Nation chief, Samuel Chakotay, he went and fought for the Confederacy to keep enslaved Africans. When they lost that war and the treaty was signed in 1866, that same guy who was fighting for the Confederacy became the chief, one of the chiefs of the Creek Nation. And one of the first things he did was to fight Black Creeks of getting our per capita payment. And Cal Tom, boy, y'all ain't with me. Cal Tom, my direct ancestor, had to get on a train from Leavenworth, Kansas, and travel to Washington, D.C. to go to Congress, the Senate, and say, this is what they're doing to my Black Creek people. And here I am, 156 years later, with all of you going to the Creek Nation and saying, look what you're doing to my Black Creek people. That's why I'm claiming victory. That's why I'm claiming victory. That's why I'm claiming victory. I'm walking in there with Cal Tom. I'm walking in there with Jake Simmons. I'm walking in there with Johnny May Simmons. I'm walking in there with Silas Jefferson and John Jefferson and Melinda Cal Tom and Rose Simmons. I'm walking in there with my ancestors, your ancestors, and we're going to walk in there with victory. We're going to be plain spoken, stand up straight, and tell that court to give us our victory, give us our citizenship, and give us our benefits. I'm like, Rhonda, I got riled up. I forgot what my next assignment was. My next assignment was to bring up and introduce a good friend of mine. He really doesn't need any introduction. I'm talking about Roland Martin. Before he comes, I want to tell you I've known Roland now about 17 years. We met first, and he may not remember this, but he probably does because he's always, he's an alpha and he thinks he's, so much better than us Qs. But I met Roland first in Las Vegas at a National Association of Black Journalists conference. I guess it must have been like 2007. And he was down there just running his mouth, arguing with everybody. And you know me, I let him run my mouth and argue too. So we've been at it ever since. But I appreciate this brother. This guy does so much for Black people in America. He covers stories all around this country that no one else will cover. And it is something that takes a tremendous amount of sacrifice. He could be on any network making a lot of money, doing a lot less work. But he sees a need for our stories to be covered. This brother is here tonight in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to stand with Black Creeks and justice for Black Creeks. He's here tonight to make sure the awareness of this issue goes throughout the nation. He's here tonight because he loves Black people. So as I bring him up, I want you, when you hear his words, I want you also to buy his book, and I want you to support Roland Martin Unfiltered. He couldn't make these type of events throughout this nation without our support. He doesn't get a lot of corporate support because corporate support means he couldn't cover the real black issues the way he does. Give it up for my guy, Roland Martin.
All right. I appreciate it. And DeMario says he likes to argue, but he can't out-argue me. You might be a great attorney, but you cannot out-argue an alpha. You know better than that. Definitely glad to be here. Before I start, let me shout out. You black people, you always gotta shout out Jesus and your mama and your daddy. Today is my mom's 75th birthday. She's watching. She's watching. Black people, real black. They like, hey, we're watching. Okay, I got you. My dad texts me like literally doing the show. I'm like, dude, I'm working right now. I'm actually live on the air. But so yeah, my mom turned 75 today. So shout out to her. And it's always good when you still have your parents and you show them some love and affection. And I appreciate being here. We're live streaming this on the Black Star Network. We've been in Georgia the last couple of days, broadcasting from there, supporting Senator Raphael Warnock and his re-election bid against that buffoon. And we literally go back to Georgia tomorrow, first thing tomorrow morning. We'll be there through the election day, December 6th. Because that's an important election, not just for Georgians, but also for all of us around the country because of the importance of the United States Senate. As I was standing back there and I was thinking about how I wanted to start, what I wanted to speak on, and it was very interesting that we're having this discussion in this fight because 2 days ago, I got an email and an invitation because tonight, in a couple of hours in Los Angeles, is going to be the LA premiere of the Will Smith movie Emancipation, and directed by Antoine Fuqua. And he is playing, many of us have seen that photo of the slave who was whipped and the photo of the scars on his back. Well, Will Smith is playing that particular actor, and they hit me up, and Will and I are friends, and they said, man, we would love to have you there. I sent him a text, and I said, brother, I said, it's a good chance. I said, there's no direct flights after I get done in Tulsa to get to L.A. I said, but certainly good luck, with the film, and so they said, hey, look, we really want you to be here, and I said, I understand that. I said, but y'all hit me about 5 days late, because DeMario would sweat me like a bill collector to be here in Tulsa. And I said, man, I'm in Georgia. He's like, no, got to have you in Tulsa. And I said, all right, we'll work it out. And so I had to tell the Warnock campaign, look, I got to take a trip there, and I'll be right back. And it's interesting to juxtapose those two. So you have this Apple film that's coming out telling this story of this black man, and it's titled Emancipation. And here we are in 2022 still talking about emancipation. I'm a native of Texas, Houston, and born and raised. And for us, Juneteenth is something we've always celebrated, that's where it came from. Now it's a federal holiday, and so it's new to a whole lot of folks. And there were people who were saying, well, I don't know who asked for this, and that was quite offensive to those of us in Texas because we fought to make sure it was a state holiday. Because even though we were celebrating Juneteenth, which was when the slaves in Texas found out 2 years later they were actually free, Juneteenth was always about emancipation, not just the celebration of the ending of slavery, but also still the continuing quest for freedom. And if anybody understands the history of black folks in this country, we have been on a consistent quest for freedom and have never actually achieved freedom in this country. Now, allow me to unpack that. When I say we have never actually achieved freedom in this country, passing Reconstruction amendments giving us the right to vote, giving actually black men the right to vote. The 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause, those were not actually, that wasn't emancipation, those were laws. Dr. King talked about be true to what you put on paper. He said, our challenge to America is to be true to what you put on paper. So what DeMario just laid out is to this Indian nation, be true to what you put on paper. If this was the commitment, then word is bond. But unfortunately, in this country, black folks know word has not been bond. Even when laws were passed, we know what happened. Even when laws were passed that supposedly granted us freedom, the 1860 Civil Rights Law, and on and on and on, we know how they were circumvented in this country. And you have people today who say, well, institutional racism just simply does not exist, but those are folks who are living in fantasy land. Because you're still seeing the effects of that. You're seeing the effects of how we have been ignored financially, educationally, when it comes to health. When you see, anytime there's a health stat, it's a good bit black folks are likely dying at a higher rate than anybody else. And then folks say, well, I don't quite understand what the connection is. Well, the through line is black, 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 which means racism, 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 racism. And what we also have seen in this country is that when we have fought to change America to live up to what it put on paper, everybody else has benefited. Let's be real clear. The fight for freedom and emancipation by African Americans in America has benefited Native Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, women, gay folk, lesbian folk, take your transgender, take your pick, because we understand when the law is changed, it's not just benefiting us. But even when we fight to do that, there's still a fight after the law has been signed. Because it's one thing to change the law, but it's another to actually make it real. And see, that's the real challenge. If you read Dr. King's book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos of Community, he said it didn't cost America much to allow us to swim in swimming pools, to go in parks, go to restaurants. He said, but the question is, will America write that much larger check? And that really is where we are in 2022. We have folks who say, well, man, why do we have to keep fighting? Well, first of all, if you are black in America, you are born having to fight. In fact, if you really want to go there to understand the plight of African Americans, when you look at the black mortality rate, when you look at black women dying at a higher rate just to have children, hell, we're fighting just to be born. We're fighting just to get prenatal care. So really, the fight for black folks exists before we've been born. The fight exists in the womb. And so it simply comes with being black in this country. And so what I say to folks who are younger, they say, well, why do we have to do these things? It's called your turn. It's called batter up. It's called tag in. Because Jackie Robinson wrote, his book is called I Never Had It Made. He wrote, if one black person is not free, I never had it made. And that's really what this is about. There's somebody here, you might say, well, or somebody who's watching, they say, yeah, but you know, I ain't Black Creek. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Yes, it does. Because today is Black Creek, tomorrow could be you. Right now in Tennessee, they determined that Tennessee State University, HBCU, has been underfunded to the tune of $577 million. And just a few weeks ago, they're interviewing the president of Tennessee State University, trying to figure out why they had this explosion of black students coming to the university and why they had to put them in hotels and saying, well, you knew you didn't have the space, well, then why you were sitting and put them in the hotels? Well, why in the hell you ain't giving them the $577 million to build dormitories? And so I've said to some people in North Carolina or in Ohio, that's still a fight for us. And so when we fight for the money in Tennessee, then we got to go to Maryland and fight for that money. Then we got to go to Mississippi and fight for that money. Because the reality is, where there is a fight, freedom, and equality for black folks, we all have to be there. And so we can ill afford to say that's not my fight. When the fact of the matter is, it is our fight. We were here for the 100th anniversary of the race massacre. And we were here broadcasting in that room right there. And President Biden came and spoke. He made a comment about what they were doing when it comes to contracts. And I remember I made a comment on Twitter. I said, well, let's just make sure that money goes to black folks and not white women. So I got a call from the White House. The next day, as I was at the airport, they were not happy with what I tweeted. Well, first and foremost, one, I own my show. I own my network, which means I don't have a boss but Jesus. So you can't call somebody to get me to stop doing something because ain't nobody to call above me. And when I got the call, I said, well, what did I say that troubled you? Well, I mean, you got to give us a shot. I said, no, I'm going to give you a shot, but I'm going to hold you accountable to what gets done. Because I'm not interested in simple announcements. We've been fighting for black-owned media, and I was in a conversation with a major automotive company, and I told them, I said, I won't praise you for a press release. I will only praise you when you make direct deposits. And there some folks have come to me and they say, well, man, why you got to go so hard? I said, because if you ain't talking about money in America, you are not having an American conversation. It reminds me of that scene from Malcolm X when Brother Johnson got beaten by the cops and they went to the police station and they said, go get some help. And then they call the ambulance and the cop turns to Malcolm X, played by Denzel, and he says, all right, you got what you wanted, now y'all can go. He said, no, I'm not satisfied. That actually has to be the position for every single one of us, whether we're talking about Tulsa, the state of Oklahoma, or anywhere else in America. Our position has to be, I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied when somebody simply issues an apology and nothing behind that. I'm not satisfied when a cop is fired but is not indicted and convicted. We're not satisfied when simply you say, well, we might hand out a couple of awards, but the question is, what's behind the awards? Far too many of us have been acceptable Negroes where we have been satisfied with crumbs as opposed to being fully compensated for what is just and what is proper. So when we're talking about this fight, when it comes to properly acknowledging Black Creeks, understand you said you were going to do it. You were wrong in the past. You must operate and do right by us today. We cannot be satisfied with folks who give empty promises. This state has given empty promises when it came to the burning down of Greenwood. They still have not properly compensated the black folks who are still alive, who were directly impacted by what happened there. And then when we have discussions about, well, why African Americans, why is it you haven't been able to do this and do that? Well, if you simply froze us out of the economic pie, then you have to understand what the effect is today. Imagine what this community would look like today had it not been attacked by white domestic terrorists. Imagine what the descendants of Black Creeks would look like today had they properly gotten land and benefits. Do understand when you talk about health care today, it literally can change your bloodlines tomorrow and down the line. So the fight today is not about the individuals today who will benefit. The fight is actually for the individuals who are yet to be born. When we're talking about benefits, land and resources and healthcare and dental, we now are talking about changing or shifting or reversing the historic downward trends that have affected us. And so now all of a sudden, if our women are getting proper prenatal care, and all of a sudden the child that they are carrying actually comes out of the womb not behind an average white child. A few years ago at the National Press Club, Jeffrey Kander stood with Marion Wright Edelman and literally said that black children are behind white children in the womb as a result of the health care of the mothers. He said, so here we are, we're trying to get them caught up from first grade through the fifth grade. He said, when they're coming into this world already behind. And so this fight here is about how do you now begin to change that and reverse that. This now means how do you now begin to create and build an economic system where we're not dependent upon somebody else. We're operating in customer service jobs and being employers, being employees, as opposed to employers. As opposed to depositing checks, we're now ones writing checks. And so the fight has to be looked at totally different. And why is it important for DeMario and the attorneys to be involved? Because the reality is, the changing of the laws has been the fundamental basis of the freedom. We can talk about, and I'm not diminishing protest. Those were valuable. They are valuable. They serve a need. But the reason the black freedom movement was so powerful, because you had action in the streets and action in the courts. The streets helped the action in the courts. The streets changed the public perception that then impacted the perception of the judges. So the role of Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund was aided by the protests. The lawyers needed the action in the streets. The lawyers and the folks in the streets needed the action in the suites. They needed all of these forces moving at the exact same time. So then you had black media that served a role. You had black educators that served a role. You had black lawyers serving a role. Black business owners like A.G. Gaston and others who were funding the movement serving a role. Then you had the folks who were cooking the food serving the role, and the folks who were taking care of the children serving a role. What I'm laying out to you, everybody had a job to do when it came in trying to actually gain freedom. So leaving here, what you should be asking yourself is, what role am I going to assume in this fight for freedom, for emancipation? And so you might say, well, I showed up tonight to the rally. All right, that's good. But what about tomorrow? Now, what happens tomorrow? Tomorrow is the legal battle. Now, it may not go the way you want it to go, but then what's next? And so everybody has to make a decision, and that is, what role am I going to play to ensure that justice is done for Black Creeks? And let's say tomorrow goes well. Let's say the right outcome is announced. Then you likely will celebrate. And if you celebrate, great, celebrate. But 24 hours later, you should then say, what's next? Because our history tells us there's always a what's next. I'm not satisfied. If it's you win this battle, what's the next battle? Then the next battle, then the next battle, and the next battle. And so your role that you may play may be cutting a check. You might be, look, you might be cooking something, baking something, driving somebody somewhere, but everybody in this room must accept what the responsibility is in terms of how do I make a difference to ensure that we have, which then means that when you leave here, call one or two other people and say, I need you in this battle with us. And then they might tell you, well, look, I don't know nothing about this. Fine, I'm going to educate you on this, because see, then you take this room and you've got more than 100 folks here. So then imagine if all of a sudden you now, if every person in this room calls 5 people, so the next gathering now has 500. And the next time, all of a sudden they say, well, no, we can't have this the next one sitting in this room. We got to go into the big room. And then after you go into the big room, you may say, well, look, the next one, if 500 call 5, that means the next event's going to have 2,500. We can't have this in the big room. We're going to have to go across the field, across the street, because we can't accommodate that. Now, that's not DeMario calling them. That means you calling 5, and you calling 5, and you calling 5, and you, and you, and you. That means that you have decided to be personally invested in this, and then when you achieve the victory, then when you begin to say the what's next, then you begin to say, now who are we going to turn our attention to next? Because once you take this room and the mushrooms to 500 and 2,500, now all of a sudden you now have soldiers on the battlefield for justice, where you have generals like DeMario and Tiffany and others who are leading and organizing and strategizing. And so can't no general win no war unless they have troops ready to do battle. So what we have to decide is whether we're willing to fight, and you can be black, you can be white, Latino, Asian, Native American, don't matter. Everybody can be enlisted in this fight when it comes to justice and when it comes to freedom. And I'll end it with this way, and DeMario, you probably ain't gonna like it, but I'm gonna end it this way with my frat brother Vertner Woodson Tandy, who said to the Alphas long ago, he said, we will fight until hell freezes over, and then we will fight on the ice. That's our battle.
Give it up for Roland Martin. Give it up for Roland Martin. Oh, I see my beautiful wife just walked in, Mia Fleming. Give it up for my wife, Mia Fleming. Listen, DJ is going to close you guys out, but I wanted to just say something real quickly. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee from Houston, Roland's hometown. I talked to her, and I wanted to make sure I told you, she wanted to be here tonight and tomorrow for the hearing, but she's in session, and she couldn't get down here. But she said, DeMario, and if you ever talk to her, Roland knows this, she does not play. She said, you tell the people I'm with Black Creeks. I'm standing with the Black Creeks. I'm fighting with the Black Creeks. And I am there, even though I can't be personally, I am here with you guys, and I will do all that I can as a congressperson to help the Black Creeks. So if I had not said that, and she saw this on Roland, I would have got a phone call. So I just want to make sure, Congresswoman, I delivered the message. DJ.
Justice for? Justice for? Justice for? So we're going to end this as we started this with the thanks. So there's a couple of people and organizations that I would like to thank, and I'd like you all to help me thank. First and foremost, I would like for you all to help me thank Terrence Crutcher Foundation co-founder, Reverend Joey Crutcher. Let's give it up for him. As DeMario says, turning pain into purpose. Next people I would like to thank are those Black Creeks who came from out of town. If you came from out of town to attend this rally today, please stand up and be recognized. Thank you all for coming in. That support is very important. And lastly, I would like to thank all the Black Creeks in this room today. If you are a Black Creek in this room, please stand up right now and be recognized. Yes. That's incredible. So there's a couple things we can do as well. Brother Martin, Brother Roland talked about things you can do. There's something you can do right now. Most of us, if not all of us, have a cell phone. Take out your cell phone right now and follow Justice for Greenwood on Instagram, like us on Facebook, go to our website, justiceforgreenwood.org, and also play a role if you're not be able to be there tomorrow. Do a donation at justiceforgreenwood.org. So I also want to thank you all immensely for coming out today. The first part of it is showing up. Without showing up, there's nothing else that we can do. But you all showed up, not only for yourselves, but for Tulsa, for Black Creeks as well as your ancestors. So I'll finish this how I started. Justice for? Black Creeks. Justice for? Black Creeks. Justice for? Black Creeks. And one last thing, I saw somebody walking towards me. If you would like to go to the bus tomorrow for the hearing, please see a TCF team member, like the wonderful Jayla right here, or Diamond back there waving. They have Terrence Crutcher Foundation shirts. Also my friend back there with the Black Wall Street shirt who led us and started off with that amazing chant. So, also, just hot off the press, go to RolandMartin.com to purchase his book. I know he's a very busy man, so he took the time out today to come visit us. You saw he was in Georgia. He got hit up by Will Smith. I don't know about you, but if Will Smith called me Jamario, I might have to go to Will Smith. Just saying. But, yeah. Say that again? RolandSMartin.com. RolandSMartin.com. Please purchase this man's book in support, because without us, there's no us. So once again, justice for? Black Creek. Justice for? Black Creek. Justice for? Black Creek. Have a good night.